Okay. Hi everyone. Good evening. So as you know that already today the 2022 GATE first paper has come, and I hope we all you all did well. And today we are conducting this discussion for all of you because we wanted to let you know about the level of difficulty and run a quick analysis of the paper to give you our inputs on how the exam was and what can be expected in the upcoming exams. And I hope this discussion will be useful for all of you and you can make the most of it so that all those people who are going to write the exam, they are better prepared. Also, because we would be discussing the answers and solutions, the students who have already written the exam can benefit from the discussion as well and see what score they can expect from the exam that they have just written. So guys, let us start the discussion. Our team is here.
Yeah. So we'll start with the subject which has the most weightage.
Yes.
So we'll start with power systems first.
Yes.
Giri sir.
Yeah, Hemant.
So you can just explain, from where the questions, from which areas, from which topics the questions have come, and what is the overall weightage for that particular subject, and then what's the overall difficulty for that particular subject, and what do you think would be the top mark for GATE 2022 electrical paper, as well as what would be the expected cutoff?
Okay. So yeah. So overall, actually, 11 marks given from power system area. So which was easy to moderate level, not a tough question given, not even a single question which is given from tougher side. All the questions are easy to moderate. But this year we can see the questions from untapped areas like power system protection, load frequency control, and economic load dispatch. Because usually if you see from last 5 years or 4 years, these are the areas the questions are not given properly. I mean to say, maybe one question or none questions are given from protection, and load frequency control, not even a single question from last 2 or 3 years. And economic load dispatch, anyway, given one question from last year, but before that, it was not included in the syllabus. So that's why what I thought was, so most of the people who appeared for this year paper has not prepared these areas properly. I mean to say, protection, most of the people might be left. I mean, even economic load dispatch, even load frequency control also. The people who have answered these questions, definitely they will be in, they will be in top side. Okay, so out of 11 marks, getting, 8 marks is very simple, and 3 marks need some extra preparation. The people, maybe if they focused on protection and load frequency control and even this economic load dispatch, they should have answered very well. So in my view, the paper was not so tough and not so easy. It's a moderate paper. So the top mark will be around 80 to 90. So I am just giving a wider range because even I have to see how other subjects also asked. So in my view, the average mark is 85 is the top mark.
And what would be the guess regarding the cutoff, sir?
Yeah, cutoff, as usual, around 30 marks per general category students. So below 30 only, not more than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So coming to the subjects that I handle, we have 2 subjects. The first is digital circuits. From digital circuits, we have only 2 marks, 2 1-mark questions, and both questions are from counters. One is a general counter question, and one more is asynchronous counter question, delay-based question. And generally, what electrical people might do is they may neglect the delay-based questions. So if at all the student is neglecting delay-based question, in that case, they will lose on very simple marks. But rather, the difficulty of the paper is very easy from digital circuits point of view as compared to last year. If you look at the last year questions are at least a bit trickier, but this year the questions are pretty much straightforward. You don't even have to do a big calculation. Just by looking at the data given to you, you can very easily calculate the answer and get the answer. Okay, so out of 2 marks, it's very easy to get 2 vacancy marks. Only thing is, if at all few students will leave the topic of sequential circuits, in that case maybe they'll lose on the easy marks. But rather the paper difficulty for digital circuits is very easy as compared to last year. And coming to the other subject, which is EMF. EMF has overall, 4 questions, one 1-mark question and 3 2-mark questions. Overall has a good weightage of 7 marks. And the same trend which is seen in the last 2 years is still continuing. That is, more weightage for EMF subject is still there. In the year 2020, we had almost 9 marks from EMF, and 2021 we had 7 marks from EMF. And this year again we are having 7 marks from EMF, wherein the average weightage of EMF, if you look at the previous years before 2020, was almost something around 3 to 4 marks. That was the average mark before, but after that it seems that the shift is definitely seen. There is a good weightage of almost 7 to 9 marks in the recent times. And coming to the questions that were asked, again, as compared to last year, the questions from EMF are very, very easy. We have one question which is an application of Ampere's law, Ampere's circuit law, and again that's a very easy question, nothing great. And the second question, which is a question from electrostatics, wherein electric field is given, and we are supposed to perform one vector calculus application on that electric field. That's it. Even the formula is also given to us. So it's again a very simple application of formula. If you know the formula for divergence, and if you know how to perform triple integrals, in that case the question is a very simple question. We don't even have to know the basics of electrostatics to answer that particular question. Just by applying the concept of vector calculus, we can answer that particular question. And the last question is a question again of potential calculation for spherical shells. That's again a good tricky question. But again, to answer that question, we can directly substitute the values in the options and get the answer. It will not take more time. Okay. So if at all a student is thinking logically and answering that question from options point of view, in that case we can answer even that particular question also. And the 1-mark question we have from electrostatics is a very, very easy question. Again, that doesn't require special discussion. Okay. So all in all, I would definitely say that getting a 5 marks in EMF is very easy. Okay. Only one question, which is a 2-mark question. Maybe some people would have seen that question to be a very big question and would have left that question. But if you look at that question logically, in that case, it's a very easy topic that was asked. Okay. So this is from EMF as well as digital circuits. So all in all, both subjects combined, you are having almost 9 marks. And out of that 9 marks, getting 7 marks is very easy. And I would expect the top mark to be ranging in between almost 88 to 92 is what is my guess. 90 plus or minus 2 is what is my guess. And regarding the cutoff, I would expect the cutoff to be something around 33 plus or minus 2 mark is what is my guess regarding the cutoff. Yeah. Surendra sir, can you explain about the questions that were asked in the machines topic, as well as what's your understanding about this year's paper?
Yes, Hemant. Thank you so much. So let's come to electrical machines. We have around 10 marks weightage for electrical machines this year. And surprisingly, there were no questions from transformers area. The questions were from DC machines, induction, and synchronous machines. Okay. So if you compare this year paper with the last 3 years papers, in 2021, 20, and 19, there were questions from transformers, but less questions were there in synchronous machines. But this year, transformers topic do not have a single question, but there were questions from induction, synchronous, and DC machine. Okay. Just like every other, GATE paper, this year also there was a question from DC machines speed control topic. Every year we are getting one question at least. Okay. And it's a very easy question and easy to answer the question as well. It's a question from DC separately excited motor, that to armature resistance speed control method. Very easy, I would say. And there were questions from induction machines, starting area, starting of induction machines topic, auto transformer starters. There was one question. And it's a standard question, okay? During the preparation of GATE examination, most of the students will usually solve these kind of models, okay? And there were some easy questions from synchronous machines area also, okay? A synchronous motor topic was given, output power and losses were given. Based on output power and losses, we have to calculate input power. From that, get the value of armature current, okay? And use that armature current to calculate the excitation EMF, okay? And it's also a very standard and basic question, and also very easy question because armature resistance was neglected in that question, okay? So overall, I should say electrical machines is going to, I should say you can score 10 out of 10 from electrical machines. Absolutely no doubt about that, because all the questions were standard questions and also very easy. Okay. So according to my view, this year GATE examination paper was moderate. I cannot say it is so easy, because from the students' point of view, I should say the paper was a moderate paper. So I'm expecting 85 plus or minus 2 marks would be the top mark out of 100. And definitely 32 to 33 would be the cutoff for general category. This is my expectation. Okay. So let's see what happens. Okay. Right. So thank you, Hemant.
Shankar sir, so one more subject where we got good weightage in this year was power electronics, wherein the weightage is almost 11 marks, which is exactly same as power systems. These are the two subjects which have highest amount of weightage. So Shankar sir, just again explain about the typical questions that are asked from power electronics. The top mark.
Okay, Hemant, I will talk about both power electronics as well as control systems, as I will cover these two subjects. So coming to power electronics, generally what I observed from the students' psychology, even though they paid well in all subjects, just 1 week or 10 before the exam, due to heavy formulas in power electronics, generally they used to leave this subject. But as usual, as every year, the questions are not based on so much heavy formulas. Just if the student have very basic understanding of the concept, they can easily answer it. So in the power electronics, as per the data I received, around 11 marks came from this subject. And when I go through the questions, these are very, I cannot say very easy and very tough. I can say the difficulty level is moderate. And see, for example, there is one question, very well framed data. Basically, in our normal books, we used to refer like in a SMPS circuits, what is the type of device used. So instead of asking directly SMPS circuits or power systems, power supply circuits, they gave some interpretation about the power supply, just 4 or 5 lines of data. So based on that, which device is best suitable? Generally, I used to explain in the classes, whenever you have any application which is based on a high switching frequency, then we need to refer a MOSFET. So that type of interpretation is given just to confuse the student. By seeing those many lines of data, generally students will feel difficult. But if you go through the data, even without doing any calculation, also you can answer such questions. Okay, so that is where students generally leaving this power electronics, but power electronics questions are not so tough. So last 3-4 years, there is a questions based on rectifiers, but this time what I observed, the stretch is not based on rectifiers. Now the stretch is moved to DC to DC converters and inverter circuits. And even in the last previous papers also, what we observed in the inverters, there are regularly questions on modulation index. This time also the question is came from modulation index, but this question is based on 3-phase voltage source inverter. That is where generally students will feel a difficulty. Out of 11 marks, I just feel only that question will be students will facing a difficulty, 2 marks, but rest of the 9 marks just from the basic preparation also the students can answer very easily. So and one question I observed, it was straightforward repeated from previous gate question, that is in AC to DC converter, output voltage having fundamental component and current having fundamental and third harmonic, fifth harmonic components, calculate the active power. So you can easily answer that question as it is right away same question repeated from the previous gate paper. So to me, of course, as a faculty, we can say questions are easy and from what we. So from the questions I received, I observed that one question from AC to DC converters, in that output voltage is given as a fundamental component and the current is having fundamental third and fifth harmonics and calculate the power factor. So that question was straight away repeated question from the previous year GATE questions. So rest all the questions are common questions only from DC to DC converters and from the devices topic, as I explained earlier. And only generally the students will feel the difficulties in that modulation index, because that question is given from the previous topic. This area has not yet touched, and the rest all the questions are mostly from the given syllabus of the GATE paper, GATE syllabus only. So coming to control systems, around 8 marks came. What are the questions? What are the areas they asked? One question is from the Nyquist stability criterion. That is a very straightforward question is given. General Nyquist contour is given, and after the Nyquist plot, what is the number of encirclements? That is a question. So that's a easy question only. Another question is from the Bode plot, Bode plot of the first order system. We need to identify how many poles and zeros. That is also easy question. And remaining questions, one is from the stability, how to find the stability, range of stability by using a Routh's criterion. Another is some closed loop transfer function is given. We need to identify a damping ratio and the natural. Control systems, the questions are quite regular questions. There is no difficulty at all, the control system topic. So from the basic preparation itself, we can answer from power electronics and control systems, all the questions. The only question I'm expecting that students will feel difficulties are based on the modulation index from power electronics. So from the basic preparation from these two subjects, students easily can score 17 marks out of 19 given. As per my expectation, the overall paper, by going through all the questions and from our team discussion also, I feel that paper difficulty level is easy to moderate, not a very difficult paper. But the only thing is how efficiently student is answered the questions. So when this type of paper, naturally the overall score, top score will be high. It will be in between 80 to 85. And the cutoff score, as Hemant sir said, it will be in the range of 30 to 35. The cutoff score. That is what my analysis on the paper.
Okay, sir. Thank you. And we'll go to aptitude section right now. Deepesh sir, just explain about from where, from what are the areas from where we got the questions this year, as well as how the difficulty fares as compared to the last year's paper.
Sure. Thank you, Hemant. I found the paper this year pretty interesting. When I say interesting, it is something that a prepared soul would find moderate. But if somebody is not very well prepared, this was an extremely hard paper for them. Okay, for anyone who has prepared well, this would be a moderate paper. And having said that, the beautiful part about aptitude always remains that we have so many areas that falls under the preview of aptitude that repetition of questions are very less likely. At the same time, areas that you get in the previous year and the areas that are covered in a particular year are very, very likely to be very different, and that is typically what happens. However, there are certain areas which have seen prominence as far as question papers are concerned, and one of that area is definitely permutation, combination, and probability. We did get questions last year as well on probability. We did get questions this year as well. In fact, there were a couple of questions related to probability that appeared in this year's paper. Other than that, we did have questions, almost 2 or 3 questions coming from the logical reasoning area. One of them was about syllogism. Then there were a couple of questions related to arrangements along with the understanding of geometry. So they did not have any particular question from geometry as such, but understanding of geometry is a must to be answering the questions related to the arrangement question that we had. There was a question related to a regular hexagon and all. So one had to understand the meaning of a regular hexagon and also should understand, what all things happen in a regular hexagon. So knowledge of geometry was a must, but it was basically an arrangement-based question, and people had to choose from the given options. Other than that, the areas that were covered this year as part of questions there were questions on percentages, a basic question on percentages was there. There was question related to time, speed, and distance. From the numbers concept, there was a question related to one's understanding of application of LCM. So there was a question related to that. Okay, and I would not say that there were very straightforward questions. There were not straightforward questions. It needed little bit of application. However, it was not hard. It can't be called hard for anyone who has done some basic preparation. Okay, so overall, it was a very moderate paper. I would not call it easy by any standard. It was a moderate paper and it was very well set. Okay, compared to the focus last year, typically there was so much of hue and cry last year regarding spatial aptitude. Okay, but spatial aptitude has always been a part of aptitude as such. However, the word spatial aptitude was mentioned last year and there was a lot of hue and cry. Typically, those are nothing but questions related to mirror images, water images, and things like that. Okay, so which is something that anyone can do even without actually preparing for it as such and all. And that is exactly what happened last year. The questions that came related to mirror images, water images, and all were something that people solved very easily. Okay, so as far as last year paper and this year paper is concerned, I would definitely say comparatively this year's paper was hard as respect to last year, but it was a moderate paper. Last year, the questions that appeared in aptitude were reasonably easy, but this year there was more application oriented. So there is a definite shift from IIT Bombay to IIT Kharagpur. That is something that we could observe. Last year, the focus there was a question related to data interpretation. There were one question related to spatial aptitude. There was a question on geometry as well. So here today we did not have any questions on geometry per se, but application of geometry was there in an arrangement based question. In fact, there were a couple of questions where there were arrangement and logical reasoning being applied and all. Logical reasoning along with one's understanding of geometry. So syllogism is also a part of logical reasoning as such and all. And other than that, last year we did not have questions related to time, speed, and distance as such and all. We did have questions on numbers. Probability question again last year was a little different in terms of the question was related to probability density function, but it was not a very pure question on probability. It was not a pure question on probability, it was a probability density function. So I would rather say that it was more related to engineering mathematics rather than being called a question on pure aptitude. But this year probability questions were pure aptitude questions. Okay, but again it needs application. Somebody who cannot think through will find the questions related to probability difficult. However, they were not difficult for anyone who has basic understanding. So that is how I would sum. There was also a number-based question. This year it was related to the application of LCM. Last year it was related to the divisibility rules, basically. So the concept of a square minus b square is divisible by both a plus b and a minus b. That concept was focused on. So area wise, you can never ever, it is very difficult to say that you'll always have the same style. So it is very, very important for students to understand that one has to prepare for all grounds. We cannot really. That is true for even all other subjects. So this is what in a nutshell, I can summarize the aptitude part as far as logical reasoning and quantitative aptitude is concerned. Thank you, Hemant.
And sir, usually, yeah, thanks, sir. And sir, usually aptitude is considered as a scoring subject for many students. But this year, when I saw the question for the first time, I found that the questions to be a bit on the tougher side, and more than tougher, I should say that it takes a lot of their time
application. No, I would not say time consuming at all.
Like, out of
I would not call it time consuming. In fact, let me tell you, Hemant, if you happen to, this is, the discussion that I just gave you was relevant to electrical engineering paper that we had today. But if you look at the computer science paper that happened today, the questions were far more tougher. The computer science questions were far more tougher, but they were not tough. They were tougher for ones who do not understand the concepts well. So it was, I would rather emphasize that the conceptual understanding was very important for the paper that was set by IIT Kharagpur this year. Okay, so conceptually it needed application. Otherwise, it looks lengthy. Okay, there was a question related to quadratic equation in computer science paper, okay, which people can solve in using 4 or 5 minutes of their time, and they can also solve it using just 30 seconds or 40 seconds, depending on how well they understand the concept and what kind of application was needed. The same thing was true even with electrical paper. Okay, so it was little bit of application, okay, more than so that is why I would not rate it easy by any standard. I would call it a moderate paper, okay, but which can be also termed as hard to. So from a student perspective, I can only call it moderate to hard. And last year it was more on the lines of easy to moderate, but this year it was aptitude was definitely on the level of moderate to high.
Sir, and well-prepared student can score how many marks in aptitude, sir?
Say full, absolutely full. They could have. They are people who are very well prepared will get 15 out of 15. But getting anywhere from 8 to 10 marks is definitely not tough. Okay, so I mean, people might have to people might spend a little more time, but anyone who is prepared will not even spend time. Okay, will be able to analyze and answer it in the much need, I mean, without any time barrier as such, and still score 15 out of 15.
Okay, thanks, sir. And Neha ma'am, can you just explain us about the English paper? Because I think with verbal ability, I think this year there's a small shift regarding, every year we used to have questions on grammar as such.
Exactly.
But this year we didn't have any question on grammar, and even on antonyms, synonyms also.
Yeah, exactly. So let me come to it. Topic wise, as you have just said, like there are 3 topics which are forever favorites: grammar, vocabulary, and critical reasoning. Last year we have had 1 question from each area. We have had grammar based fill in the blanks question. We have had analogy question, which was vocabulary based almost. And then we have had inference question from critical reasoning. Now in the class, we always emphasize among all the type of critical reasoning questions, assumption based questions and inference questions are the most expected questions. So we always tell students to prepare at least those type of questions of critical reasoning for sure. And this year also has been no exception in this sense, because again, we have got 1 question from inference. So this year we have had 2 questions, one from critical reasoning inference and another from vocabulary. Interestingly, there was no question from grammar. So however, vocabulary question was there from confusable words area. More specifically, we can call it a homophone. So this has again, it's repeated. In fact, this question has been repeated across branches this year. So we can expect that the same type of questions will continue in the upcoming exams as well. So students should definitely brace themselves and prepare in critical reasoning area and in the vocabulary area in terms of confusable words. So we have seen a vocabulary question this year, not the pure vocabulary question from synonym antonyms, but as confusable word, which has always been a popular choice. So the students can continue preparing in that area. Good thing is, for confusable words, they do not need to go through vocabulary books or need special knowledge. Anybody who is good at general vocabulary, anybody who's good at common sense can also solve this kind of question easily. In terms of inference question, last year I feel the question was quite straightforward and easy. This time also the question was easy, but the students who may tend to rush in the exam may misunderstand the question because options were a tad bit confusing. So you need to give a thorough reading to the options and use process of elimination carefully to eliminate the wrong choices. Otherwise, they may fall in the trap and lose their 2 marks. Otherwise, the paper, I would say, has been easy last year and this year, and students can expect full marks in English. So that is my analysis of this year's GATE English. I think any student who is good at POE, process of elimination, option reading, and general vocabulary would perform really well.
Yeah. Thanks, ma'am. Ijaz sir, you can share your understanding regarding the subjects of signals and measurements in this year GATE paper.
Sir, measurements, we have had only one question, and that question has been from error analysis. It's a very basic question, a resistive model where the percentage error was asked. So it's a very straightforward question. We have had repeated models, previous year's models from the same area. And in fact, that is an area which has been extensively discussed in the class. So that is almost, that's the only single question that has been asked from measurements. So it's on the easy side. Now coming to signals, we've had around, I see around 5 questions being asked from signals. And out of the 5 questions, 2 questions are very straightforward. One question where a differential equation has been given and the impulse response has been asked. So it's more of a signals plus controls model, a very easy question, relatively an extremely easy question. So that's almost a sure shot question. A second model of question is where a sinusoidal input has been given to an LTA system and the magnitudes has been asked. So these are all, this question again is a very repeated question, repeated model where sinusoidal input to an LTA system, you'll have to find out the magnitude and phase and then find out the values of A and B. So both of these I would categorize in the easier questions because there has been good number of repeated models on the same areas, both these areas. And 3 questions which I would consider to be on the moderate side is, one question from DTFS has been asked, and the good part is even since the last year, DTFS has been explicitly mentioned in the electrical syllabus. And since last year, I was expecting a question from DTFS, and that was very clearly told that DTFS is one area where you can expect questions. And this year we've had a question from DTFS. So, but the question that has come up from DTFS is a basic understanding problem. If you have the basic understanding of the expressions, and then a logical approach to the question, rather than solving it extensively, if you apply logic to that particular question, that's again on the easier side. It is on the easier side for a student who has actually understood the concepts of DTFS. But where a student might find it difficult is DTFS being a new area for an electrical student. There is not much help that you can get from the previous year's questions. This is one area which has to be separately, if at all a student has actually covered that particular topic, he will find that topic very easy. We had extensively covered this in the classes that we have taken. And I had actually emphasized that this is one area where I am expecting a question. Last year I had emphasized, this year also I had emphasized. Last year we didn't have a question from DTFS, but this year fortunately we've had a question. So it should be not that tough for a student to solve. Another question is the filter analysis, where the impulse response of a filter has been given. But normally the generic filter impulse response, whenever it is given the particular form, it is generally for a low pass filter. But this here he's actually multiplied with a cost function that would convert the normal low pass filter according to the modulation property into a band pass filter. So a student who's able to actually understand that this is basically a question based on band pass filter, then sinusoidal input, you'll have to just filter out those particular inputs which will be passed by the band pass filter based upon the pass band and the pass gain. Then the question is actually very easy. But again, fortunately, this is one area where a lot of emphasis was laid out in the class. And a similar question, even though not in electrical, was asked previously in EC. And this was an area where exhaustively huge emphasis was laid out in the class. So a student who's actually attended the classes, he would find it very easy to solve. And another question again from the linear and causal, that is system classification. Again, a model where you will have to just actually understand the basics. That's again a conceptual problem, not a very laid out problem where you can actually pull it out from the previous year's questions, but a question where you have to have that understanding of how do you classify system. And then if you actually write down according to the process, rather than if you actually just go by just by hearting a particular set of rules, it's not possible. But if you actually go by the conceptual understanding and then go by process, it is a very easy question. It is actually a model which has been extended from the OpenAM textbook, because OpenAM textbook has a good number of models based on similar areas, which was again discussed in the class. So I find the paper to be a moderately placed paper, where good emphasis has been laid out for the easy model of questions, as well as questions where conceptual understanding is required. So I place a paper on the moderate side, but exact models of questions, similar models with emphasis on concepts was discussed in the class.
Okay, sir. Gautam sir, I think Gautam sir is yet to join the meeting. Okay. We'll wait for him.
I think Noni can share his experience. He wrote the paper.
Yeah. So, whatever experiences we are telling, whatever inputs we are giving, this is from the faculty viewpoint. But we have one of our students, Mr. Noni. So he has been there in the heat of the moment, and he'll be sharing his experience as to how the paper was, regarding this year's analytical paper. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Noni, you can share your experience as to how you felt regarding the overall difficulty, as well as which areas you found it, tough, and what was your surprise area this year, etc.
Yes, sir. So basically, I thought the paper was more on the easier side. I was worried about the same thing, that the cutoff might go might be higher this time. Other than that, I was not expecting questions from protection, so I hadn't prepared protection that properly. So that was surprising for me. Other than that, a few questions from powertronics in the for the devices model, like which device will be more effective. That I couldn't do. Other than that, most of the questions I covered. Like aptitude was pretty okay, and English was simple. Also. English was also simple. Other than that, yeah, that's it, sir. I think the paper was more on the easier side, I guess. I was also expecting a lot of questions from transformers, but yeah, nothing from transformers as well.
How many marks are you expecting?
I don't know, sir. Around 70, I guess.
Okay.
Like I don't want to be
70.
too. I don't want to be too hopeful in case it doesn't work out.
No, what you said is right. Actually, many people like you, not prepared this protection part. But that is really a simple question. That question keeps on asking in all the AE exams and AWE exams. That is a straightforward question.
Yes, sir, yeah.
Protection of alternator against loss of excitation, what type of relay is used? That is a offset Moore relay. I used to discuss this in the class, and every time I used to say this is a commonly asked question. But that's a straightforward question, actually speaking. The people who just studied once, they can easily answer that. Okay.
Yeah. Even the incremental cost part was I was thinking it might be easier, sir. But then one of the limits was violated. Then I couldn't proceed further after that.
Acha, the limits also given for that question.
Yeah, like the power total power was given, and the fuel cost for each of the two machines was given. So after we differentiated and we equate, we are the overall the power is coming more than the total power.
No, I think for a generator one, I think he has given directly fuel cost without any surprise. It's a straightforward function. So, and also lambda given from lambda equal to IC1, we directly get P1.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm saying. That P1 which we get, it's more than the total load P.
So maybe I because I didn't receive the exact data. That's why I didn't solve that. But that is what the people have said to me. From lambda we can calculate P1, then P2 also we can easily calculate. That's what the people have said. But I need to see the question once we got the exact data. Anyway, I felt from the power system side, all the questions are simple. But from the three-phase networks, okay, it's a combined with power system, I can say, where the questions are felt little tough, little, because you should know the concept to answer the questions.
Yeah. See, when the paper looks like easy, these type of small, not more questions. Whoever is able to crack these questions, they will get a very good rank. So anyhow, at least 10 to 15 questions will have these many twists. Otherwise, it will lose the GATE standard. So whoever is more expecting questions see, I heard from in this discussion only, there are no questions from transformers. That is really surprising. So sometimes one particular area will not be focused. So next year, students will rush to what are the topics given in this time. Maybe next year, transformers will be the big feature.
Good.
And last 2 years in the rectifiers chapter, source inductance concept was a compulsory question, but this time it is not touched. And now the focus is shifted to inverters modulation index. So of course, inverters modulation index question comes from single phase topic, but this time 3-phase topic is given. So like that, a little bit areas whatever not touched earlier, they will touch generally. In that the very toughness in the easy paper is these type of tricky questions we need to solve it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some questions. Even I mean, I can say overall in all the subjects, some areas, even in aptitude also, I felt Sarah is saying that it is paper was easy for the people who prepared. But I heard from many students, many students who we are expecting a good rank, but they are also saying that aptitude questions are a bit tougher this year.
I did not say easy. I said moderate to tough, moderate for prepared people.
Okay, sir.
But I think this year the rank deciding topics would be power systems, untapped areas, and power electronics untapped areas, as well as aptitude. And lastly, signals. These are the 4 areas I believe from where the new topics were asked, and these would be the rank deciding topic probably this year.
Even I heard from one of our students.
Every year power electronics questions are easy, but it will decide the rank because students will leave that subject.
Yeah,
10 to 15 days before the exam.
And one more thing, I heard from one of our students, like one question from control system Nyquist plot. That Nyquist contour is given in a different way.
The pole, it is left hand side.
Yeah. Actually, we have to see that original question because that also question which decides the rank. So because see that is the question given for MCQ. Yeah, that is a MCQ question, right? Most of the people will go for the usual answer. Maybe for that question, that is a twist question, I can say. Yeah.
In the regular way, that will be answer is
most
0.
people will go for
0, but I think the answer is 1. I think. Yeah.
Okay, we need to see the answer.
We need to see the original question.
Original graph.
Yeah.
Hemant, now also remaining meeting time.
Gautam sir. Now Gautam sir joined. Yeah. So Gautam sir. Gautam sir.
Am I audible, Girish sir?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
you are audible.
I am audible. Okay. Good evening to everybody on this panel. As usual, I am a bit late. So I'm here with the breakup of electric circuits and also analog circuits. 1 second. How do I do this? So analog circuits, there are a total of 5 questions. And I think all 5 questions are extremely straightforward. They are very conceptual. They are not even lengthy problems, to be frank. So it is just about writing one KCL equation and boom, you'll get the answer. They are that straightforward. In fact, I was able to gather the questions from our students. There was this one question from OHM where there is this input current source, and in the negative feedback we have a capacitor. Even the load is some capacitance. We have been asked to find I out by IN. You see, in this circuit, of course, I'm not able to show the circuit, but the input current will entirely flow through the capacitor. And of course, you can apply virtual short. In this way, you'll be able to find the output voltage in terms of the input current. And once you know the output voltage in terms of the input current, and because the load capacitance is across the output port, the same output voltage will appear across the load capacitance. So it's a very straightforward question. So the current is what voltage divided by impedance and so on. But there is this interesting question on finding how the output impedance varies with frequency. In fact, the given circuit, it's a voltage follower. And I think it has been given that the op amp is what non-ideal. for a non-ideal op-amp, first of all, the gain is not, infinite, and also the op-amp itself behaves as some kind of a low-pass filter whose gain will continuously drop with frequency. See, whenever you make a voltage follower using the op-amp, two things will happen. The input definitely increase and the output impedance will definitely decrease. And if you connect the output of the op-amp directly to the minus input terminal, then the value, the feedback factor is what? 1. And what is that amount of feedback? It is 1 plus AB. And if the output is what? Directly connected to the minus input terminal, then B is what? 1. So if B is 1, then 1 plus AB, is it not equal to 1 plus A? So the output impedance due to this negative feedback, it gets divided by 1 plus A. Now, when it comes to how the output impedance itself varies with frequency, you see, as frequency increases, the gain will decrease, right? And if the gain decreases, 1 plus A also will decrease. And this 1 plus A is present in the denominator. So the overall output impedance will definitely increase. So you have to choose that option, which shows a plot where the output impedance actually increases with frequency. So if anybody has chosen that option where the output impedance increases with frequency, I think that is the correct option. Then there is this question on rectifier. Some two diodes are connected. So clearly the given circuit is half a rectifier. It's a no-brainer at all. And there is this another question on integrator. So there's one more question on integrator, again made using the op-amp. You see, for this integrator, the applied input is what? 0.1 volts, which is a positive DC voltage. I've said this a million times in my lectures, both online and offline, that for the integrator, if you apply a positive DC input, then output gets saturated and the output will be what? Minus Vsat. In fact, the question is about finding V naught at steady state. So the correct answer would be V naught equal to minus Vsat. So moving on to the next question on, I'll just read it. Ideal MOSFET is there, which is operating in saturation, and it is biased in common drain configuration. Okay, I mean it's biased in saturation, and it is in common drain configuration. And what is its current gain? Again, it's a very conceptual question. See, common drain. When they say common drain, it is understood that the input is what? Applied at the gate, and the output is taken at the source. And at the gate, what is the current that will flow? Is it not 0? So in a common drain configuration, the input current is what? 0. And definitely some non-zero current will flow at the source, which is what? The output. So the output current is not 0, and the input current is what? 0. So in common drain configuration, always the current gain is going to be infinite, because the input current, which is what? The gate current, is going to be 0. I think these are the questions that came from analog circuits. Like I said in the beginning, 4 1-mark questions and 1 2-mark question. Altogether, I'm sorry. 3 1-mark questions and 2 2-mark questions. The total weightage is 7 marks. So anybody who has learned the subject conceptually, easily he'll be able to score 7 out of 7, in my opinion. Then moving on to electric circuits or network theory, there are not that many questions, especially in terms of weightage. The total weightage for electric circuits, it's only 6 marks, out of which there's only 1 2-mark question, and then 4 1-mark questions. Okay. I was able to get hold of a few questions. I think there was one question related to RC circuit analysis. Again, you just have to follow the same standard procedure. Draw the circuit at t equal to 0 minus, find the voltage across the capacitor, assuming circuit reaches what? Steady state, and use the same voltage at t equal to 0 plus, then do the calculations for t greater than 0. You should be able to get the answer. And I think there were 2 questions related to finding quality factor. You see, component quality factor is what? For an inductor, the component quality factor is what? Omega L by R. And for a capacitor, the component quality factor is what? I think 1 by, omega RC. And another RLC circuit is given, for which already in the question, I think the bandwidth and the resonant frequency both are given. And you have been asked to find the quality factor, which again is a very straightforward question. Just have to go by the definition of quality factor, which is what? Omega naught divided by, so 1 second. I think bandwidth is given, and also related to the definition of quality factor. The definition of quality factor is what? Omega naught divided by bandwidth. So in the question itself, omega naught and bandwidth, both values are given. Just have to find the value of the quality factor. Okay. And then I think one simple circuit containing one dependent source or maybe two dependent sources is given. And some voltage we have been asked to find, which is directly based on application of KCL and KVL. And there's one more question where a transfer function has been given. In fact, I have the transfer function. Numerator goes as what? AS plus B. N of S, it is what? AS plus B. And the denominator polynomial, it is S square plus CS plus D. So clearly, it's a second order system. And for the given transfer function, the system cannot be what? I think 4 options are given. The first option is what? Low pass filter. Second option is what? Integrator. Third is what? High pass. Fourth is band stop filter. So the system, it cannot be what? You have to choose the option. You see, I already told you it's a second order system. So it is the numerator polynomial N of S that will decide what type of filter or system the given transfer function is going to represent. Okay. And what is N of S for this particular thing? It is AS plus B. So clearly it's a first degree polynomial, which means for this system, there will be 1, 0 and 2 poles. There will be what? 1, 0 and 2 poles. 1, 0 and 2 poles, it means it is definitely not a high pass filter. It is definitely not a high pass filter. So the correct option would be high pass filter, because as the frequency tends to what? Infinity, the gain will definitely tend to 0, since there's only 1, 0 and 2 poles. At very high frequencies, the gain will tend to 0. So it cannot be high pass. So the correct option is high pass. So I think this is it from electric circuits and also analog circuits. So both the subjects combined, there is this weightage of 13 marks, which is not too bad. So these two subjects continue to hold their importance, but only thing, all questions are extremely easy. So I was expecting some more, trickier questions, at least from network theory, but all questions are, really straightforward. So at least out of 13 marks, people should be able to score, 10 to 11 marks. And there'll be a few students who will be able to score all the, questions and get 13 out of 13. So over to Hemant, sir.
Yep. Sir, again, what do you think would be the top score, in this particular paper?
95.
And what do you think also will be the cutoff?
Cutoff will be around 30. It won't be 25, in my opinion, because it's a very easy paper. It might be close to 30. But see, last time also many people were beating their chest and saying that cutoff would be 40, 45. But GATE is always GATE.
40.
Something between 25 and 30, not more than 30. But top mark for sure it will be around 95. There will be a couple of students who might cross 95. That's what I feel. Even our students, I'm guessing, must have done really well. Let's see.
Really well.
There's a problem with my camera.
Okay, so
Right.
combining all the analysis of all the papers, sir.
What's your final opinion?
Yeah, combining all the opinions, I would say that there is one tough question in power electronics. Yeah.
Hemant, I think mathematics sir was not available today. So, but
it's not available today.
Yeah. So,
so from mathematics point of view, the questions from linear algebra are very easy questions, and there's one question from vector calculus. Again, a pretty easy question. It's a question on gradient. So any student who have a very basic understanding of gradient will be able to answer that question. And I would say that the matrix questions were such that even class 12 student would be able to answer those questions. They are so easy. We have one question on skew symmetric matrix, and if at all any student who can build the matrix would be able to answer that question. And I think we have one more question on Cayley-Hamilton theorem. And again, if at all we are able to write the characteristic equation, we'll be able to answer that question too. And there's one question which is like Deepesh had told earlier. It's a probability density function question. And again, that's again, if at all we can understand the symmetry in that question, that would be again an easy question. There is one tricky question in the calculus part. I think that's the only tricky question in the entire mathematics paper. Apart from that 2-mark question, rest all paper I believe is pretty easy, and it's very easy to score almost 10 to 11 marks in mathematics also. That's my take on mathematics.
Okay, so we can conclude what would be the highest mark, and we also discussed what are the trickier areas. I think as Noni already said, one of our student. So unexpected questions were also there in GATE-22 paper. Like he said, power system protection, because while preparing for GATE exam, most of the students will feel that power system protection area will carry very less number of marks. So they will usually skip the preparation. But a very easy question was given from that area. And also students will expect more questions from transformers, but surprisingly there was no question. That means what my point is, when you are preparing for a competitive exam like GATE, you should not leave any area or any topic. So all the topics are very, very important. Okay. So the students, who were preparing for the next GATE exam or who are writing the upcoming GATE exams. So the point is, you have to prepare each and every topic and each and every subject. At least in case if you did not prepare a particular subject well, at least you should be able to answer questions from the basics of the subject. Okay, no need to go till the depth of the subject in case if you wanted to skip that. At least basics you have to revise so that you can answer easy questions like one question from power system protection this year. Okay, this is my point. So every topic and every area has to be covered. In case if you don't have time or if you wanted to leave a subject, at least basics you need to cover. That's what I mean.
So that they don't miss on the easy questions.
Yes, they don't miss on the easy question. Yes, that's my point.
And last year, a student who got marks of above 75 got rank below 100. So this time I'm assuming, I'm guessing that, probably if they get around 78, 80 would be the cutoff for top 100 rank. That's what's, my take on this year's paper. So if at all they get 78, 80 would be, they'll be getting a rank below 100.
Yeah, so we should not only concentrate on the All India first rank. So if you consider the top 100, who will usually get good opportunities from PSUs and all. So maybe last year, as you said, 70 plus is a student 70 plus got below 100. So this year also, this year also we can expect the same, right? Yes. So any more conclusions from the other members of the panel? Like Ijaz sir, I think tomorrow EC paper and instrumentation papers were there.
Except aptitude, we can conclude that the paper is pretty easy paper, with all the subjects combined. Only aptitude part, if you see, it's kind of moderate to tough. But rest all paper is, a very easy paper, I should say.
Yeah, sir. Even from my perspective, we've actually, the trend has followed. In fact, last year we've had less questions from measurements. The same trend has, and even last year we've had a lot of emphasis on signals.
Yeah.
The same trend has been followed this year, even though the emphasis on measurements was not that. It's just a single question that we've got from measurements. But signals, we've had good questions from signals. And since the last 2 years, electrical, with respect to signals, what I've just observed is they've actually breaking a convention, because very simple models of questions have been asked in signals right through. If you look maybe 2-3 years back, it was very basic questions that have been asked. They've tried to include more questions from wider domain areas. Like, for example, this year they've asked questions from DTFS, even the question from the other areas. They've laid emphasis on a couple of questions were relatively very easy, but we've also had questions which were conceptually good. So it's a mix of, it's the GATE standard to an extent has been, they've maintained that particular standard in terms of the questions. But again, it is again the basic models which were expected to be coming up, where at least even. And one more point that we've actually observed is any electrical student should also lay a lot of focus on solving questions from EC as well, the EC branch as well, because that has been tested very well in this particular paper. Because if you look at this bandpass, the bandpass filter question that has been tested, that the similar question has been tested in EC paper. If I remember right, it was maybe 2017, a 2-mark question from sampling. A question was being tested. So in fact, that's not the same question there. It was in fact a better question that has been asked there. So they've pulled out concepts from there. The DTFS model, even for EC, you've had since the last 30-35 years, you've had only 3-4 questions from DTFS that has been tested. But that was a trending topic because it's the last few years it was tested. So the same extension has been extended to electrical. So laid out areas which you could have expected, but a normal student who's just relying on a lot of previous years questions which are actually very old, who's not going by the trend, might have missed out on these areas. So he might find it difficult. But this, I was actually expecting these questions. DTFS was also highly expected. Even the questions from filters, the bandpass filter model was highly, that was again an expected model, the filter type of question based on the impulse response. These were all expected questions. So that will be the.
So your conclusion is that students preparing for electrical engineering paper, they should solve previous year questions of ECE paper as well, right?
As well, that is also one more point. And signals is one subject that they'll have to lay focus on.
Yes, yes.
I would actually say the combination should include not just the previous year's questions, but also questions from standard textbooks like Openham, where you have standard textbooks should also be a part of. You should be solving questions from standard textbooks also, at least maybe the selected unsolved questions, because that's what I've observed in this particular paper.
Yeah.
The conceptual emphasis has been laid importance for at least for a couple of questions here, and those are the questions that will give you an edge. If you try to solve at least the 2 questions of those manner, that will give you an edge out of the normal average. So statistical average, if you want to stand out from the average crowd, that is what will give you an edge, and that will give you a top rank expected marks.
Yes. So even in the test series also this year, we have included at least 1/3 of the paper. We included previous standard textbook questions. Some of the questions we included. I mean, almost take questions taken from the reference books.
In fact, sir, in the classes we have actually discussed including the advanced problems from Openham has been discussed. So to that extent, that is a level of exposure that is actually required in the subject. And even though measurements actually this year we've not had questions, it's not far away that we can have a trend reversal where we might next year expect a good number of questions from that particular subject, because measurements again will lay out as an important subject even for because if not for GATE, the other exams like AEAW, where GENCO, all these exams where measurements has a lot of importance. It's just a matter of time where the trend can reverse. So you cannot actually just go by the trend of the last 2 years where measurements has not had its own importance. maybe the next year it can actually bounce back and there can be a good number of questions from
Yes,
measurement.
even in instrumentation paper also, measurements will play a role because electrical students will write instrumentation paper as well. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And moreover, it's anybody who's actually preparing is not just okay. He's actually preparing for wide number of exams, if not ISRO, DRDO, a lot of exams as well. Measurements will have its own importance again.
Okay, guys. I think Hemant, you can give the final conclusions regarding electrical engineering.
From whatever we have discussed, I believe that a person who got about 78 to 80 would be below top 100. That's what is my take. And furthermore, I would guess that the overall cutoff will be something in the range of 33 plus or minus 2 mark would be the cutoff for this year for general category students. There is a lot of claim that people may do that people say that cutoff will be above 40 and all, but I don't think that will be the scenario. Because this year offline was restricted to only almost like 3 months. We didn't have a lot of offline, and generally see that whenever there's a lot of offline classes going on, the cutoffs are also high. That's what we have seen earlier too. Last year, even though the paper was a bit moderate to easy type, but still the cutoff was pretty low. The paper was not tough, but still unexpectedly the paper was a bit low because when people are studying in online for the first time, it's a transient phase for them. So it takes time for them to adjust and all. And I think even this year, a good number of students should be in the transient phase only. Slowly, the people who are learning through online mode, I don't think the infra and the mindset is so mature. And because of that, I don't think the cutoff will be going beyond 33, 34 marks is what I'm guessing. And like I told, the top mark would be 90 plus or minus 2 mark. Like Gautam sir was predicting the cutoff, the top mark would be almost 95. And there is also possibility that cutoff will be around 85, considering the worst case scenario. But on an average, I would say the cutoff would be something around 90 mark plus or minus 2. Yeah. And overall, paper is subject wise also, if you see, the paper was a bit easy, except a few subjects where we have only 1 or 2 questions which are on the trickier side. The rest of the paper is pretty much straightforward.
Hemant, 85 to 90 is cutoff or top score?
Top score. Top score is 90 plus or minus 2, and cutoff would be something around 33 plus or minus 2.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
so
guys.
I think Surendra sir, we can close with it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. So I hope the session.
I think probably this.
Thank you.
We're all meeting.
Yeah. Unfortunately, only mathematics sir was missed because of his family engagement. So it would have been wonderful if maths sir also joined. But okay, fine. So even I'm expecting this will be definitely a fruitful session for the students appearing for the examination, upcoming GATE exams. So the final note is that you have to be ready for the surprises. So some of untapped areas were also asked. And don't follow only the last 2 years trend. You have to consider from the past 10 years what is happening. So all the areas and all topics have to be covered. Intensive problem solving is also very important. Not only PYQs, even some of the questions from the standard textbooks also must be practiced. Okay. So this is the final conclusion. Okay. So thank you, guys. I think we can close the session now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.